Toughest moment?
Not being able to finish 2005 Ironman Hawaii because I had a burst appendix.
Oh my God. 11 Ironman titles in her amazing career. Lisa Bentley joins us. Lisa, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Give me your thoughts on PTO and what they're bringing to the table.
I am loving what they're bringing to the table. I think it was really driven home this year in particular when the championship event, the Collins Cup, had to be postponed a year, and there was meant to be a prize purse for the year based on rankings. They ended up paying it out early because they knew that athletes would need that money. There's no races. Who knows what was happening with athlete sponsor contracts? Obviously, they're not making bonuses if they're not racing. And so that big purse that was going to be accumulating throughout the year to award to athletes at the end of the year, the top 100 men and top 100 women, they gave that out in April. That speaks volumes about what the organization's about. So that was pretty darn impressive.
How far into your career, or when were you diagnosed with CF?
I was diagnosed when I was 20, which is pretty old because, back in 1980, the median age of survival was 12. So
really?
So I was diagnosed at 20.
During the peak of your career, what do you think your lung function was, percentage-wise?
When I was healthy and running at full steam, I was at 100%. It wasn't until really 2009 when I got really unwell, like I said, with the flu, and it just kept going down. And that was sort of the last year of my professional career. And I remember my last race, I had planned to be Subaru Ironman 70.3 Muskoka. And my lung function for that race was about 71%, which again sounds amazing, sounds good, average student, but 50% is one lung. So 71% isn't great.
Yeah.
As a professional athlete.
Right. Yeah.
And the doctor said, you can race, you're not going to hurt yourself, but your lungs aren't working very well right now. And we really need to start thinking about putting you on some bigger anti-inflammatories, some more strict medication. And I said, okay, just one more race. And then I promise I'll take whatever medicine you want. And I did that Muskoka, and I was way further back, and so many people were so worried, but I just I always raced by effort. I never was looking at wattage or time. I just raced, and so it felt like any other race to me, except I couldn't breathe. And I was a bit sick on the run. I started coughing up blood, so I had to kind of shut it down, but I finished the race, and that was my last race of my professional career. And ironically, the doctors say now that you're not racing at a high level, your probably lung function won't be as good as it used to be because sport kept you really healthy.
Your first Ironman win in New Zealand was year 2000, and that was the Olympic year. Had you tried that whole Olympic cycle to think, hey, it's the Olympics, first ever Olympics is going to be in Sydney in 2000. I want to be there representing Canada.
I so badly wanted to be there. So it was really in 96 that I started to think Olympics. So 95 was the Pan Am Games, and I went to the Pan Am Games. So that was sort of the first Olympic theme for triathlon. So 1995 I went to the Pan American Games. So then I actually hired a swim coach to really help me with my swimming, since I knew that was where it was at.
Yeah.
And at our national championships that year, I went from being on the Pan American Games team for Canada to not even in the top 10 at a draft legal national championships, because I just didn't have the skill set to swim with the leaders.
Right.
So I did hire a swim coach, and I got better. And I started, I think originally I was a 24-minute 1,500 meter swimmer. That was status quo when I started the sport. Then I got to 21-minute 1,500 meter swimmer. And, in the old days, that was really good. Except now there was the Katie Zafaras of the world that were swimming 17.
Yeah.
So I could never get there where the true swimmer was.
Right.
So I did try to get my swim where it needed to be, but I just couldn't get out in that, the lead pack or even a good chase pack. So it looked like my skill set was more geared to the long stuff. And I was so happy when I was out running for 2 hours and biking for 4, 5, 6 hours. So I tried my first long distance race. It was 1996, I think, 1996 Strongman Japan.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't have a clue. Like my longest bike was 3 hours. My longest run was, 2 hours. And that was a 3K swim, 150K bike, and a marathon.
Yep.
And I was so undertrained for it. But, I had this anaerobic component of my skill set as a short course athlete. And so it was so easy. It felt amazing. And I ended up winning the race at my first time at the long distance. And I was just so happy. And it was, I said, this is what I love.